guys, welcome back to Glow and Tell. Today we have a very exciting episode all about the law of assumption. We'll get into that if you don't know what it means, but ultimately this is manifestation techniques, but don't be thrown off if you're immediately like, that sounds fake, that's not real. We're gonna get into it. This is a lot more realistic and practical than you might think, but I'm gonna be sharing with you the tips that I have, my personal stories regarding the law of assumption, examples, ways that you can apply it to your own life. So much good stuff. If you finish this episode and you kind of want a little bit more onto this type of topic, I have an episode on my podcast about the law of attraction, which is similar. These are kind of like sister laws, like they build off of each other and they are not the same. We'll be getting into the differences about them as well, but they both just kind of touch into the same realm of things like manifesting your dream life, creating your dream reality. The one called Raise Your Vibration Permanently, Change Your Life Using the Law of Attraction. That stuff is so good, and these are some of my favorite things to talk about because I feel like everybody needs to know about these things, but everyone doesn't know. So if you're listening to this right now, you're getting some good information. Trust me, this is going to be pure gold, but I just feel like so many of these things are underutilized, and if people realized how powerful they were, everybody would be doing it. So we have some definitions here to just clear things up. The law of assumption is ultimately saying that reality conforms to your beliefs and assumptions. Like if you embody a certain state of having something, it must manifest. There's no reliance on external forces. Basically, the power lies entirely within you. The law of attraction states that your vibrational frequency attracts like frequencies from the universe. So this process involves co-creating with an external force or universal energy. So if you happen to be sort of wary of that, which I would urge you to go listen to my law of attraction podcast about vibrations because I really get into the science of it. But either way, even if you aren't skeptical about it, they really do build off of each other. They will be so incredibly powerful for you in just changing your life. And if nothing else, allowing you to cultivate a positive mentality and a good mindset, because what could be better than that? So even if you go into this with a skeptical mindset and you're like, I don't know if this is going to work, whatever. First of all, you will see the positive changes in your life, but also you will literally just be living a more positive life because you will have changed your mindset from being in a lack mentality and a negative mindset to a positive one. So I don't know what could be bad about that and what reason you would have for not wanting to do this, but the law of assumption is all about assuming. I feel like when I think of the word assuming, my initial kind of connotation with that word might be like to assume, I don't know, maybe in a relationship, like you assume that your partner's doing shady things, like you just assume without having a knowledge basis on it. It can also be assuming a position, like you can assume a position of power or you can assume the position of a CEO. So there's kind of like a double meaning behind that word. This is all about assuming your ultimate state. It's like assuming your goal state. And by assuming it, by acting like you already have it, which if you've heard anything about manifestation, it's all about that. It's all about acting as if you already have something or it's already yours. By acting in that way, you change your whole mindset. You imprint those ideas into your subconscious mind. And whether you know it or not, those things end up coming true for you because you change your trajectory. Like you change your habits and your actions by changing your mindset. And then these things just seemingly like flow to you because you've changed yourself. So it's more on like inner state and less on energetic alignment, I guess. But honestly, when I think of the law of attraction and the law of assumption, it's kind of like you might do one while you're doing the other, like by visualizing your future state and acting as if you already have it through the law of assumption. You also will be energetically aligning with that future state as well, which kind of tags on to the law of attraction. So they kind of go hand in hand, and doing both of these things is going to be great for you. But again, to just give a good definition, the law of assumption is a manifestation principle that states that your reality is shaped by what you assume to be true. According to this concept, your dominant thoughts and beliefs create your external circumstances, as the subconscious aligns with your assumptions to make them a reality. Also, this was coined by Neville Goddard. I'm not sure how you say his name, but he's the one who came up with this whole principle. But the subconscious mind, I've said this before, if you've, heard me talk about this before, it's unreal. And I did not realize, I think I subconsciously knew, but I didn't fully realize the extent of how incredibly powerful your subconscious mind is until I read the book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. It's so funny because I literally saw a picture of the book on Pinterest and it was just in somebody's like desk setup. Like it looked cute, it looked intriguing to me, and I wanted to get it. So I just blind bought the book. I'd never heard anybody talk about it, but I read it and yeah, wow, my whole world was changed. I 100% will be making an entire podcast episode in the future about the subconscious mind because man, there's so much there. There's so much to unpack there. So one thing that's really powerful that like when I heard this, I was like, oh my gosh, is the subconscious must accept, whereas the conscious can reject. Think about that for a second. The conscious mind, because you have a conscious mind, which is the one making the decisions. It's the one like you probably think of as yourself. For me, it's the one sitting here thinking and talking right now. But you also have the subconscious mind. It's the one that is awake all the time, even when you go to sleep and your conscious mind goes to sleep. The subconscious mind is awake. It's the one dreaming in the back of everything. It's the one propelling your actions. It's like where your intrinsic motivation may lie and your ulterior motives essentially are kind of just sitting in there. This whole idea is that you can prime your subconscious mind with the things that you want because your subconscious mind, like its whole goal is to work to make whatever you have imprinted into it true. It's like it wants to make those things line up with your reality. So if you aren't at the current reality that your subconscious mind is at, it's going to work, basically dictate your actions, whether you realize it or not. Like you probably won't even know. It's going to do everything in its power to make you get where you want to go. But on the contrary, you can also prime your subconscious mind with negative thoughts and with negative things, and it will just align you with that because that's what you've put there. So it's like depending on which seed you've planted, which seed you've chosen to plant, it'll grow. It'll grow no matter what. So you can choose to put good things in there or bad things, and it's going to grow either way. But again, back to this little statement, the subconscious mind must accept. It doesn't have the ability to think. Like it can't sit and say, is that a good idea? Is that what I want to be in here? It just takes what you give it and it just accepts it. Your conscious mind is the one that can reject. It's the one that holds doubts. It's the one that has self-limiting beliefs. It's the one that says, you can't do this. And when you say that, when your conscious mind says that and it maybe rejects something, you could also be rejecting it from your subconscious mind. I always talk about affirmations, but this is something that kind of makes me think of affirmations. And when people say they don't work, I don't believe them, it doesn't matter, I'm not just going to magically believe it. You actually will. If you say something enough, you have imprinted it onto your subconscious mind. I've been saying affirmations every day for months now. Sometimes I just put them on in the background. Like, you know how they say, babies listening to Mozart can make them smarter or something like that. Or people would even play a certain movie or like a YouTube video the night before a test. They would play it all night so that their subconscious mind would like hear it even though they were sleeping. Like, it's all the same idea that you have the ability to choose which knowledge and which information you put into your subconscious mind. So even if you have a doubtful conscious mind, it doesn't even matter because your subconscious mind will do it anyways. If you give it what it needs to do, like if you give it the tools that it needs, it's just going to go. It's going to align your actions because it's ultimately just the best tool that you have like to work with. So if you're not utilizing the power of your subconscious mind, and I'll talk about specific ways you can do that, but it's truly just unfortunate not to use it to its full potential. Something else I saw that really struck me, and I think this was literally just somebody like that said this in the comments of a YouTube video, but they said, a lie persisted becomes a fact. That really got me because on a psychological basis, the more that you hear something, the more familiar it feels. Like the more you entertain a certain idea, the more comfortable you feel with it, the more realistic it seems. And that familiarity can lead to acceptance. So even if something isn't true, the more you entertain that idea, the more it becomes true. Even if it's not factually true, if you believe it to be true, it's just the same as if it was factually true. Like it doesn't even matter because you ultimately create your own reality. So like you could fully in your heart believe that something is true, even if it's not true. So the way to align this with the law of assumption and the way to, I guess, use this in your favor is if you repeatedly assume a falsehood, like repeatedly assume a position that you aren't currently in. Like let's say you want to be a CEO. You're not currently a CEO, but you assume the mindset of one and the habits of one and the actions of one. Over time, it's going to appear familiar as if you are a CEO and like you will become one. Like even repeating things like affirmations and over saying I am successful, it can reshape your self-perception and cause you to eventually be successful in the real world. So it's really good stuff. It's really powerful. And to reframe it in one more way, what you believe to be true about yourself and your life will ultimately shape your reality. We even know that this is true because we ultimately see the world in the way that we want to see it. Like people see what they want to see. You could think about this even in terms of relationships where somebody maybe knows the negative traits about somebody, but they choose to be in a relationship with them because they want to, or they just choose not to see it, or it's almost like they accept a reality that isn't actually there. The facts don't matter to them because they are choosing to see that person in the way that they want to. This goes with people who are kind of more pessimistic and negative as well. They will see the world in a negative light. They will see all the negative things that are there, even though there are factually lots of positive things there. They live in a negative reality because that's what they've decided to create. And just the same way, somebody could do this in the opposite way as well, where they live in an optimistic world. They choose to see the positive in everything, and as they're walking through life, they find all of the good things, and the bad things, maybe they're actually there, but they don't even see them as bad things. They reframe them. So we do create our realities, even just in how we have our own perceptions. Like our perceptions dictate the way that we experience the world. So why would our perceptions of our assumed or actual states not shape our realities and our futures as well? You know what I mean? The law of assumption actually is based off of psychological concepts like the placebo effect, which this is another really interesting thing. And I just started reading the book You Are the Placebo by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I also read his book Becoming Supernatural, and that was one of the best books I've ever read as well. So I highly recommend them. I'm definitely going to do an episode about like the placebo effect and how you are the placebo as well, because I already can just tell it's such an interesting thing. But the placebo effect is really powerful, and there have been so many studies and so much research that shows that just by believing that you are either like unwell or that you have a certain condition, even if you don't actually have it, your body will start to become sick, and like you will make all of the symptoms appear just because you're focusing on it. And there's so much more to be said about that, but honestly, I've been one of the like worst culprits of this in a negative way. I think it's largely because I have anxiety, but in the past, like there was one specific period of time where I was just convinced that I had so many different conditions, medical conditions. I just was convinced that something was so wrong with me. Really, all that was wrong with me was that I had anxiety, but I started getting like a fear of being dizzy. I think I had it happen to me like one time, or I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know what's real anymore, because it's like the anxiety and the anxiety symptoms, they all just melt together. So I don't know what's actually real and what's just an anxiety symptom, but that's a side point. Anyways, I had this whole period of time where I became hyper focused on dizziness, and I was convinced that I was always dizzy. I would just sit and I would always just be staring off, trying to determine if I was dizzy or not. It was ridiculous. It was actually ridiculous. I went to doctors and stuff, and they like couldn't find anything wrong, and my symptoms like didn't match with any condition. There was nothing actually wrong. And one day when I got the thought in my mind, like, oh my gosh, am I dizzy right now? Like I just stopped. I literally was like, no, we're not doing this today. I'm exhausted. And I just forgot about it. And then like I kept on going with my day. And then a few weeks later, after like doing this over and over, I realized that I had not felt dizzy one time. Nothing had changed other than the fact that I just stopped myself in my tracks, and I was like, no, we're not doing this anymore. And that, I think I've mentioned this story before, but like, let me just tell you, I've done this to myself with not just that physical ailment, but with many others, like many others. It is unreal, to the point where now if I start feeling something in my body, like I'm not even kidding. The other day, I felt like I kind of had a sore throat, and it was like the day before Thanksgiving, and I was like, oh my God, do I have a sore throat? And I went to my mom, I was like, Mom, I think I have a sore throat. Oh my God, am I gonna be sick? Like I literally was freaking out, like actually freaking out. I started doing all the things, and I didn't even really have a sore throat. Like I woke up the next day and I felt completely fine, but I had convinced myself that I was like about to be sick, like that I was about to have a cold or something. I literally like mentally prepared myself for it. And I should have just been like, do I kind of have like a weird feeling in my throat? Let's just see what happens. No, I hyper fixated on it, and I like put myself into the mental state. I basically assumed the position of somebody who has a cold and made that be my reality. And I had to just take a step back and be like, okay, girl, what are you doing right now? Like we need to stop. Let's go make the pumpkin pie. Why are you freaking out right now? Like it's fine. It's because it's really dry air and I have tons of sinus drainage and my allergies have been crazy lately. Like it's fine. And actually, like when I tell you I have endless stories like this, I really do. Even now, even the fact that I know that I do this to myself, it still makes it hard not to do it. But years ago, I actually had this happen multiple times where like I just felt like I had body aches. I didn't actually have body aches. I just started to think and I'm like, oh my God, do I have joint pain right now? Wait a minute, I think I do. Oh my gosh, do I have body aches? Oh my God, I'm gonna have the flu. And I just laid on the couch in a blanket, like crying for hours because I thought that I was gonna be sick and I didn't even have the flu. Like, it's so pathetic, but I fully convinced myself that that was my reality. And I assumed the position of somebody who had that reality, and it didn't even happen yet. So if you would have said, are you sick? And I said, yes, I fully believed that to be true. Like, I fully believed that that was my reality. And that was like the truth. Like, that was the truth to me. It wasn't actually the truth, though. It wasn't real. So just in the same way that you can do it for that way, you can also do it for the positive way. That's what this whole point is. But that was a little side story. I was ultimately saying that the law of assumption is based on the placebo effect and confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is a cognitive bias that causes people to favor information, interpretations, or behaviors that align with their existing beliefs, dismissing or undervaluing information that contradicts them. Sort of like selective attention, selective interpretation, or selective memory. Using the law of assumption, it's kind of like using your body and your mind's psychology to your favor. It's like understanding the way that it works and just taking advantage of it. So just like hacking your mind, basically. One of the most important parts of the law of assumption is actually visualization and imagination, which I actually love this because I have a very vivid imagination and I'm always visualizing. But this means that you have to imagine what it would feel like and what it would be like to have all of the things that you want and assume that state. And it needs to be a continual thing. Like if you want something, if you want to be in a certain place in your life, or like if you want to have a certain life in the future, to really make it happen, you want to do this like ideally every day. I have started doing little visualization meditations every time I'm in the shower. Every time I take a shower now, I turn on frequency music, I turn on affirmations. My favorite ones are from Kinder Records on Spotify. I listen to all of their affirmations. Like I just love them. Like every single affirmation I've probably listened to a bunch of times. And I just sit in them. I allow myself to believe that they're true. And then I do my own visualization as I'm taking a shower. And then after I get out of the shower and I'm in this really calm Zen state, I might just go sit on my bed for a little bit and visualize. And I picture my dream life exactly how I picture it playing out, the things that I want. And I've done these same visualizations so many times for a lot of the same things that, just as I mentioned a second ago, like they do feel really familiar to me. Every time I think about them now, it's not like I'm picturing some super far off, really crazy reality, even though looking at it at face value, the things I'm picturing might seem to an outside person like so crazy and unfathomable. But to me, because I've pictured them so many times and because I think about them a lot, they feel very close. They feel like things that I know are going to happen, not things I hope are going to happen. And I've made them be very familiar to myself. So that's why I think that doing this on a regular basis, like doing little visualizations, just like I mentioned, where you sit and you just think about exactly what it would look like if your dreams came true. Like if you want to be a YouTuber or a content creator, you picture exactly what it would look like to get your silver play button in the mail, to open up YouTube and see your subscriber count, or if you want to get into a certain school and you're really like dreaming about it, you picture yourself opening that acceptance letter, and then you picture exactly what it would look like you moving to the school and you going to the school and what it would be, how it would feel, what it would look like. Like picture it. I often picture my future house that I dream to have. Like I have a whole little movie about it that I play in my mind, and it's beautiful. It's like my little second reality. And I almost just think of it as like when I'm in that meditation and I'm picturing that future self, I almost just feel like for a second I'm contacting my future self. This is gonna sound silly, but yeah, I feel like I'm almost having a glimpse into my future. It's like, let me just like channel my future self right now real quick, you know? It's really cute, honestly. And again, the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and imagined experiences. It doesn't know the difference. This is actually so funny. This makes me think of this tendency that I have to give people really detailed descriptions of movies that I just watched or books that I just read, or even like of my day, which the victim of these descriptions is often my boyfriend. So one time I was telling him about a movie that I watched and I really went into detail. I basically gave him the entire plot, like from point to point. And then I remember like a few months later, that movie came up and he was like, oh yeah, I've seen that movie. And I was like, have you seen that movie? I don't think so. He's like, yeah, where this happens and this happens and this happens. And I was like, I think you just think you saw that movie because I told you about it. And he was like, oh my God, you're right. I didn't even see that movie. And that's happened. That's happened multiple times to me and my boyfriend specifically, where he literally thinks that he saw a movie or read a book because I described it to him in such detail. So like his subconscious mind didn't know the difference between me vividly telling him about a movie I saw and him like thinking about the movie and him actually seeing the movie. So your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference. If you give it that deep visualization and you vividly picture all of those things, it thinks that that's real. So then your identity becomes one of a YouTuber, a person who got into your dream school. Like it becomes that. And the emotions that are associated with these visualizations are the key. Like you can't just visualize it and be like, my dream life, so cool. You have to feel it. Like you have to really channel it. So you picture your dream life, close your eyes, you picture everything happening, and then you picture exactly how it would feel. Really channel all of those emotions, feel them. They make like a tie between your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind realizes how that feels. It wants to experience that again. It wants to make those things a reality. And additionally, it's another way of like solidifying that feeling in yourself, almost that it's already happened, because that's kind of the goal here. It's like we're assuming a state that in the real life, like it hasn't yet happened, but we're assuming it to make it eventually happen. So that's another way of making it really feel like it's already your reality. And the other really important thing about this is persistence. Like I just mentioned, you want to do this often. If you want this enough, you've got to keep it in the forefront of your mind. Like I said, I made this a daily part of my routine. I do it every single day, every time I'm in the shower, and sometimes as I'm falling asleep, I do these visualization activities. It doesn't have to be super crazy, super long, but like I'm doing it often. And I think that that's a really important thing, because you can't just do it once and then expect to like see the desired results immediately. And so you need to have that expectation going in. This is the long game, but it's the rewarding game. It's so worth it. So keep up on a continual basis with doing these things to make sure that you put yourself in a good position to actually receive them, and not just like, okay, honestly, this is really bad, but this makes me think of, I think it was the start of 2020. There was a whole fad on TikTok about all of the manifestation stuff. Like that's when it became really trendy. And I remember I would constantly see TikToks about like how to manifest a text back from someone. This is so pathetic. It literally makes me cringe to think about, but I would like watched a few of them, and there was somebody that I wanted to text me back at that time. And so I like laid in my bed and I'm like, I did these little manifestations, and you like picture that person texting you back. You picture the text popping up on your phone. You picture exactly what your phone looks like. Okay, I literally did the manifestation, and then I opened my eyes and I'm like, I didn't get the text. Like, hello? Okay, girl, it doesn't work like that. And you can actually be stunting your growth and your bounty of things to receive by fixating on them like that. You have to detach from the outcome of these things, which is called the law of detachment. And that will be an episode coming up, just wait. But you have to detach. Like, for example, let's say you wanted to become a YouTuber or a content creator of some sort, and every single day you woke up and you like obsessively checked all of your social medias time and time again throughout the day, like to see if you gained new subscribers, new followers. Honestly, this can be hard not to do. And I feel like when I first started seeing growth, I was like on my phone every second, like obsessively looking. You don't need to do that. It's not good for you. And it can have you start to focus and put your attention on the wrong things. And where attention goes, energy flows. If your attention is going to hyper fixating and obsessing over numbers rather than like the actual actions that will get you there, like maybe putting effort and energy into your creativity and into creating content, it's going to the wrong place. Your focus is getting skewed. It's not where we want to go. And they always say like things happen when you least expect them to happen. So you want to put that intention out there and detach from the end state. Like don't sit here with the expectation that this is going to happen right away. And when it doesn't happen, you start to get angry and upset and you're like, oh my God, it's not working for me. I knew this wasn't going to work for me. Just wait, just believe it and assume that state perpetually, essentially. Keep doing your daily visualizations, but don't get upset over the fact that they haven't happened yet. Just be like, think about them in a fond light every day. They really will come when you least expect it. Like if I think to the start of the year when I was making my 2024 goals, I wrote down a list of a bunch of brands that I would love to work with. And a lot of them would be dream brands. Like I would never have thought that they would have actually reached out to me. The prospect of actually working with them was so far from my reality at that point that it was just like I was writing them as a dream. It wasn't like I'm writing them and I'm like, yeah, they're gonna reach out to me. I wasn't sitting there every day like looking at my email and being like, oh my God, is this them? I just let the emails come to me. And then one day, you know, when the email from one of those dream brands came, I was obviously very happy, but I hadn't been obsessing over it that whole time. I had put the intention out there and I let go. And then I just kept on going with my work and I did the things that would get me to where I wanted to go. And the brands came to me. And those dream brands that I never would have thought would have reached out to me. So they come when you least expect it. Like it really does. Even with like relationships, they say like when you stop looking, the right person just shows up. And so you've got to detach from that outcome and not let yourself get focused and hyper fixated on the end point, but instead stay in that desired state. Even if you have like negative outer circumstances, if something gets you down, just keep going. Like persistence is so key here. So the ultimate steps, I guess, if you want like a step-by-step guide about how to use the law of assumption, the first step would be to identify your desire. What is it that you want? This could be a journaling exercise. You could sit down and like go step by step through what I'm about to say and think about, what is it that I want? What do I want to manifest into my life? What is it that I want to assume? Like for me, it's often things related to content creation, growth, like YouTube, podcasting, a house, a career. But for you, it could be related to school, to financial things, to a dream job, a partner, friends, even like anything you want. Identify your desire and then create a new assumption is step number 2. So identify any limiting beliefs that you may have and replace them with empowering beliefs. Instead of saying something like, I'll never find love, or like, I'll never be a famous YouTuber, replace it with, I am deeply loved and cherished already. I am a successful YouTuber. And honestly, when you make something part of your identity like that, which is honestly what I did before I started the YouTube channel, I was like, yep, I'm a YouTuber. I know this is going to happen. I'm a YouTuber. And I basically had that belief in my head until I became a YouTuber. If something occupies your thoughts that much, there's just like no way that it cannot come true. You know what I mean? If it's such a big part of your thoughts in your daily life, like how could you not align yourself with the opportunities and with the things necessary to make it happen? Like it's going to happen if you do that. So create that new assumption. Like let's say my goal is to be a YouTuber. That's my desire. My assumption about that is I am a famous YouTuber. I'm a well-loved YouTuber. Then visualize the end state. So now you're going to think about, what would it look like to be a YouTuber? What would a YouTuber do every day? I'm using this as an example, but like maybe you want to assume a better financial situation. You could imagine what it looks like to be debt-free, to be financially free, to have all of the money you need, and really visualize it and picture it. Feel the emotions that you would experience if it were true. You can even write them down. Grateful, excited, joyful, hopeful, happy. And number 4, affirm the new reality. This is where you can use affirmations like I do on a daily basis every single day. Repeat them. Maybe do it as you're getting ready in the morning, as you're making your breakfast. That's what I do. And just say, I am successful. I am beautiful. I'm on the right path. I'm on the right track. A little activity you could do right now would be to make affirmations for yourself for your very specific goals. Repeat them with conviction. The 5th step is to just let go of doubt. Again, these self-limiting beliefs are your worst enemy. Let them go. We don't even know the extent of the possibilities in the world. We have such a limited worldview that I feel like we often think of things as being unreasonable or difficult to achieve, but people achieve them. Like people do these things every day. We don't even know what the grander scheme of things looks like and what things look like on a greater scale and what moving pieces there are in all these different places. Like we don't even see all of that. There could be opportunities lining up for us at all times and we don't even know. So just keep your mind open. I think having like an open mind and a perspective that's willing to accept new ideas is such a great trait. If you can just take in new information and consider that it might be true and ponder it a little bit. So don't let yourself get locked into self-limiting beliefs because it's truly going to be your worst enemy. Just keep your mind open. Don't even box yourself in by saying like, I think honestly one of my worst pet peeves, or not pet peeves, but just like I feel so bad when I hear people say things about themselves that like, I'm so this, I'm so that. And I even got a comment the other day that was like, it was on on my YouTube video about how to be productive and all my productivity tips. And they were like, I wish I could do these things, but I get distracted easily. And the immediate thing that I took away from that comment was this person has created a narrative in their mind about the way that they are, and they've decided that they are an easily distracted person. And they've now made that a part of their identity. So now to themselves, they say, I'm an easily distracted person. I can't be super productive because I'm the type of person who's easily distracted. I'm just predisposed to it. So not only is it limiting themselves, like it's self-sabotage, but it's also like an excuse they've essentially created for maybe why they aren't doing things. Maybe it's a form of like a coping mechanism. And instead of focusing on how they can be more disciplined and how they can solve the issue of getting distracted, because it's not just like, oh, they're born super easily distracted, like unless somebody has ADHD or something. But I mean, and of course, I don't know this whole person's situation. This isn't meant to be like a whole, harp on them, but it just came to mind. And I know a lot of people feel this way. I mean, the truth is anybody can get distracted. And a lot of us have fallen victim to, our phones and TikTok, like ruining our attention spans. What that person probably needs is a little dopamine detox and a break from their phone to kind of get their brain recentered. But instead, they have cultivated this mindset that they are an easily distracted person. And now everything that they do in their life is going to personify that idea that they have about themselves, that they're easily distracted, but it's not even true. So if you sit there for a second and think, do I have ideas like this about myself that I hold currently? Like, do I think to myself, oh, I'm just a clumsy person, or I'm not smart? And if you do, like, are they actually true? Or is it just something that somebody said to you one time and you held on to it? Or is it something that you just use as an excuse? Or is it something that you just think might be true? I just don't think that they're helpful to have, and they can only hurt you. So to try to dismantle some of those ideologies if you currently hold self-limiting beliefs, because they will only hurt you in the long run. And the last step, number 6, is to take inspired action. So now that you have these new assumptions, take the action that's going to line you up with where you want to go. Like if you want to be a YouTuber, now you have this whole great mindset. Okay, you're going to get started on doing what it would take to become a YouTuber. Honestly, this step, it takes work, but it's often like easy to implement once you already have all of those ideas imprinted into your mind. It's like this is the easiest part because you're already so primed to want to do these things. It's going to take work, of course, but I think that setting yourself up for success with all of these great mentalities is like the first step, And again, just don't fixate on it. It will happen. Just let it happen. And don't hold jealousy for people who have the thing that you want. Like, don't look at the people that are in the position you want to be in and think, oh my God, I can never do it. They already did it. I'm so jealous of them. Just be happy for them and know that you will get there as well. I think that's where we're going to wrap things up today, but I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know if there's anything else that you would like to hear from me, because these are some of my favorite type of topics to talk about. I love the mind. I think psychology is so interesting, and how hacking our minds can help us live better lives. So thank you so much for listening. Please give this podcast a rating on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts if you'd like. I would really appreciate it, and it would really help me out. Don't forget to follow the Glow and Tell podcast Instagram, where we post weekly inspiration, behind the scenes, lots of good stuff. I will talk to you guys soon.